Europe, 1943. The air smells of burning oil and iron. Above the clouds, German aces still believe they own the sky. Then from the horizon, a new silhouette emerges, thick, barrel-shaped, almost comical. The Luftwaffe pilots laugh. Too heavy, they say. Too slow. But that laughter doesn't last long, because what they're seeing is no ordinary machine. It's the American P-47 Thunderbolt, a fighter built not for beauty, but for survival. Within months, this so-called flying brick would turn the tide of the air war and become a legend known as the Beast of the Skies. The story begins in the late 1930s. Republic Aviation's chief engineer, Alexander Kartveli, was a man who believed in brute strength. While other designers dreamed of slender, graceful fighters, Kartveli wanted a machine that could take punishment and keep flying. His challenge came when the U.S. Army demanded a new high-altitude interceptor. He chose the biggest radial engine available, the Pratt & Whitney R2800 Double Wasp, a 2,000-horsepower giant more suited to bombers than fighters. Around that engine, Kartveli built a frame of steel and muscle. It was huge, over 10,000 pounds fully loaded, with wings strong enough to carry 8 heavy Browning .50 caliber machine guns. When pilots first saw it, they joked that it looked like a milk jug with wings. The nickname stuck, the Jug. But on its first test flights, the Jug revealed its secret. Once it clawed its way into the sky, nothing could dive faster or hit harder. By 1942, war had engulfed the world. America needed fighters fast, and hundreds of Thunderbolts rolled off the assembly line. Early models, P-47B and P-47C, were rushed to England. The first units of the 56th Fighter Group received them with mixed feelings. Compared to the British Spitfire, the Thunderbolt was enormous. It burned fuel quickly, its climb rate was slow, and its radio system was unreliable. On early escort missions over France, several Thunderbolts turned back with engine problems before even seeing combat. One frustrated pilot wrote home, "It's like flying a safe with wings. Beautifully built, but I'm not sure it belongs in the air." The Luftwaffe, still confident in their agile Messerschmitt Bf-109s and Focke-Wulf 190s, mocked the new arrival. They called it the flying bathtub. Then came Captain Don Blakesley, a bold Ohio pilot who refused to accept limits. During a training flight, he discovered that the Thunderbolt's massive weight was also its advantage. At high altitude, he pushed the nose down. The Jug screamed through the clouds faster and faster. The airspeed needle passed 480 miles per hour, unthinkable for a piston aircraft of the time. German fighters trying to follow began to shake violently. Some lost control. Blakesley landed and immediately radioed his squadron. "Stop turning with them. Dive, strike, and climb. Use the Jug's weight. Make it your weapon." The tactic worked. Soon Thunderbolt squadrons were ambushing Luftwaffe formations, attacking from above with devastating fire, then vanishing into the clouds. June 13, 1943. Over Paris, 8 P-47s met 12 German FRW-190. The Luftwaffe charged head-on, confident as ever. The Americans dove from the sun. 8.50s roared, nearly 7,000 rounds per minute tearing through aluminum and engine blocks. In less than 2 minutes, 6 enemy planes were falling in flames. The rest fled. From that day, German radio intercepts changed tone. Avoid combat with the P-47 unless advantage is clear. The hunters had become the hunted. Engineers at Republic weren't finished. They installed a new turbo supercharger, giving the Thunderbolt lungs strong enough to breathe at 40,000 feet. They added wing pylons for drop tanks, doubling its range, and later fitted racks for bombs and rockets. The Jug was no longer just a fighter. It was an air-to-ground juggernaut. By 1944, squadrons of Thunderbolts swept over occupied Europe, shredding supply trains, fuel depots, and troop columns. German soldiers learned to fear the deep growl of that double wasp engine echoing through the valleys. One survivor of the French campaign recalled, "When we heard that sound, we knew the end was near. The ground shook before the bombs even fell." The P-47 produced some of the greatest American aces of the war. Francis Gabi Gabreski, a Polish-American pilot of the 56th Fighter Group, became the highest-scoring U.S. ace in Europe with 28 aerial victories, most achieved in a Thunderbolt. Another, Robert S. Johnson, survived a mission where his Jug was hit by 21 cannon shells. Oil splattered across the canopy, the cockpit filled with smoke, yet the engine kept running. Johnson made it back to England. His ground crew counted more than 600 holes in the fuselage. He climbed out, pale and shaking, and said simply, "She's ugly, but she'll bring you home." As new P-51 Mustangs took over long-range escort duties, Thunderbolts found their true calling: close air support. During Operation Overlord, the Normandy invasion, hundreds of P-47s roared over the beaches. They destroyed tanks, convoys, and even coastal artillery positions. On D-Day alone, Thunderbolts flew more than 1,000 sorties. They were so durable that pilots often returned with half a wing missing, oil leaking, and control cables shredded, but alive. To Allied troops on the ground, the Jug became a guardian angel. Infantrymen would look up at that thick silhouette and cheer. It wasn't pretty, but it meant survival. The statistics speak for themselves. By war's end, the P-47 flew over 745,000 combat sorties, destroying over 86,000 vehicles, 9,000 locomotives, and 6,000 tanks. It dropped more than 130,000 tons of bombs, more than any other U.S. fighter. Its 8 machine guns consumed 500 million rounds of ammunition in combat. The Luftwaffe, once dominant, was ground to dust beneath its relentless assault. German prisoners often said they feared the P-47 more than the bombers it escorted. One captured officer confessed, "When the Jugs came, we hid under anything we could find. It was like the sky itself was angry." By the spring of 1945, the once mighty Luftwaffe was a shadow of itself. Airfields lay in ruins, fuel was scarce, and the sound of Thunderbolts echoed over every front. When Germany finally surrendered, many Jugs still bore the scars of battle. Bullet holes patched with metal plates, soot streaked across their wings. Yet most of them still flew. After the war, the P-47 continued service in the air forces of France, Brazil, and several Latin American nations. Some flew into the early 1950s, their engines still rumbling with the same deep growl that once terrified Europe. The P-47 Thunderbolt was never the prettiest fighter of the Second World War. It lacked the sleek curves of the Spitfire or the Mustang's glamour. But beauty was never the point. It was a survivor's machine, built by immigrants, flown by farm boys, maintained by sleepless mechanics in freezing hangars. The Jug represented a simple truth. Power and perseverance can outlast perfection. Even today, restored P-47s still fly at air shows. When that massive radial engine starts up, people turn their heads. It's not just noise, it's history breathing again. One veteran pilot once said, "Every time I hear that sound, I'm 20 years old again, looking down on a world on fire." In the final months of the war, as Europe burned itself quiet, one truth became clear. The plane they mocked had outlasted them all. German pilots had called it slow. They had called it ugly. But the P-47 Thunderbolt was unstoppable. Its legacy is not measured by elegance or fame, but by lives saved and missions completed. It taught the world that strength isn't always beautiful. Sometimes it's loud, heavy, and made of steel. The beast of the skies may have vanished from the battlefront, but every time a radial engine rumbles across the horizon, the spirit of the Jug lives on.